Hello. Alright, so this video is going to show you the final review. Okay, prepare for the final exam for the Java class. So it's going to be multiple choice. So when you come to the class, click on the class name, and under final exam you see one test, which is final test. Okay, 34 questions and 3 points per question. Just start, and when you're ready, just hit begin. Okay, you have 1 hour and 40 minutes to complete. Alright, so now let's review. Alright, so I'm going to open Eclipse first, and also want to talk about the questions that we're supposed to know and review of all the contents. So our test is going to cover chapter 1 to chapter 7, okay, of our textbook. So if you look at our textbook, we start introduction to computers, right, in chapter 1. Alright, so in chapter 1 we're supposed to know pretty much just basic computer system, right? So we talk about numbers is 0, 1, right, and 1, 0. So this is called bit, right? And like 0, 1, right? And byte, we know that there are 8 bit, right? There are 8 bit in 1 byte. Okay, now 1 bit, okay, in 1 bit, you know 1 bit can represent 2 values, right, like 0 and 1. Okay, so if I have 1 bit, right, I can have 2 values. Now if I have 2 bits, okay, so we can use the equations, okay, the equations to find is 2, okay, to the power of number of bit. Okay, so again 2 to the power of number of bits. Like for example, if you have 1 bit, 2 to 1, you have 2 values, right? If you have 2 bits, so it's going to be pretty much 2 to the 2, right? 2 to the 2 is going to be 4. Okay, so that means you can have 4 values, right? So now just be careful. Questions can give you, hey, I have 10 bits, I have 5 bits, or any bits, so you just need to do 2 to the power to answer that. Alright, so now let's see some basic understanding of computer. We have CPU, right? CPU contains what? ALU, arithmetic logic units, okay, for doing the add subtract. And arithmetic logic, right? Logic is when you do like condition, Boolean algebras, right, and or not. And we also have CU. CU stands for control unit. Okay, so control the traffic is pretty much load and save data, right? And we have register. Now register is just like memory. When executing a program, the processor reads each program instruction from these registers. Okay, we have registers. Alright, so now then we start to talk about how to declare int, right? Int, the data type, okay? Double, right? So you just need to review declaring numbers, variables, and so on. So this is called primitive data type, right? Alright, so just review that. And now we also have the technique. When you want to change the type, we call casting technique, right? So this is actually starting from chapter 2 here. Okay, So like if you want to change double to int, like for example I have double, right, x equals to 5.5, and I want to cast, right, in y equals to casting, just change x like that, right, by putting in parentheses. So that's called the casting technique. Pretty much just change the values from double to int and so on. And we talk about the characters data type. Okay, so we like to use like a column. Okay, a column single quote. Okay, single quote to, like for example, it has char. Okay, letter equals to a single quote a, so assigning a to the letter. And we were talking about naming the constants too. Alright, so in naming convention we said class name, right? Class name, okay, going to be capitalized case, right? Capitalize the first letter. Okay, now for constants, okay, for constant we said all has to be in uppercase, right? Uppercase, all, right? Letters, all letters are uppercase. And methods and variables, right? So those are lower cases, okay, lowercase letters. Alright, so now make sure you understand and review those again in conventions. Alright, so let's talk about the program a little bit, about the char. Okay, we talk about characters here. So like for example, if I declare char, right, letter equals to a like that, and if I want to do system.out, okay, system.out print line, and I put casting. This is casting that we just talked about, right? Casting letter +1. Okay, so +1, that means these letters can be numbered. Okay, so this is using ASCII code. So in chapter 1 we were talking about ASCII code 2. It stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. So let's look at the ASCII table. So for example, letter A, you see we talk about lowercase a is number 97. Okay, so let me show you in Eclipse. Okay, so let's open Eclipse. I'm going to create new project, okay, and name final exam or final review. Let me create new class, and I'm going to include, okay, the main methods by checking right there using Eclipse. And now we talk about system.out.print. Okay, so now let's take a look at, we say char, right? Letter equals a, and I want to print letter. Of course, this is going to be a letter A, but like I said, this is Actually, it's from the ASCII table. If you cast this, or if you do +1, you can cast this to number, or you +1, that means it's going to be automatically cast by itself to a number. And we just look at ASCII table. Letter A was 97. When you +1, it's go to 98. Right, so that means if you cast this, like I said, it's being casted automatically when you add 1 to int. Then you have to cast it back to the char, right, of characters. And then it should return B for you, right? If I say +2, then it's going to be C and so on. So make sure you know this. You'll see it on the test, okay? Right there, C. Alright, next, let's review next topic. So this is about the char, okay? Alright, so we were talking about using terminal, right, to run and compile. So make sure you still remember that, right? So you can type terminal for Unix or CMD for PC, right? And you can say Java C followed by the file name, right? Like that. Now I don't have the file name, it's not going to come. And when you run, you say Java and last name, like that, okay? And we were talking about now branching, okay, chapter 3, right? So we talk about the greater than, less than. So you know that if I say x greater than 1, it's pretty much equivalent to, it's going to equivalent to what? So the opposite of x greater than 1 is going to be x less than equals 1, right? Now that means if I put not, so x greater than 1 pretty much is equivalent to that, right? And coarse Boolean expression, you know, you can use and, right? And let's say we can do or, right? So let's test a little bit. So if, right, if you have more than 2 conditions, x greater than 1, right, and x less than 10, okay, now we're going to define int x equals 5. So we can just print, right? So we can use AND operation like that, right? Print x, okay. So else pretty much just say we go print, okay, x is not between 1 and 10. Okay. So let's see. So I just show you, I use the AND operator right there, right? So I just use AND operators to take care of 2 conditions. So it's print out 5. Now can I put parentheses like this? That's going to be invalid, right? If you want to put parentheses, you have to surround with the bigger one, right? So that should be fine. Okay. So now can I just say like that? X greater than 1 and less than 10, like that? That's not going to be valid, you see. So programs start to complain. We cannot do that, okay? We have to separate them using the AND operator like that, right? You don't need to put like parentheses surrounding inside. You can do or, just or, okay? So and both of them has to be true, and or only one condition is true is going to do, right? And we talk about not as exclamation mark. Okay, just like an example, you can do less than, greater than, less than equals, greater than equals to. Okay, that's or, right? And not. Now loop, we talk about for, right? For loop. So review that. We talk about while, right? And we talk about do, while. So review those, right? So we very much know that you can watch the videos again, right? So I was talking about for, do, and right. So this is for each. Okay, this is for each. Use that for array, and this is while, right? While conditions, right? And this is do while, right? Oh, this is for. Okay, so for int I 0 less than 5 conditions and increment. Okay, and we have do while too, right? So if you want to do while, so it's pretty much just do, and then you just do while is going to do at least once. Okay, not like for or while do. So that's the difference. And put a condition. You can just say condition in here, right? And it's semicolon and statement just go here. Okay. Like in this case, it's going to always print the word true at the end right there, like infinite, because I make it all true, right? So after you run the program, it's going to process everything. Oh, that one make it return, so stop. You can make return exit. Okay. So if I commenting out, it should do all true all the way because I always make it true. Like that. Alright, so now we start to talk about loop in chapter 4. Okay, so these are chapter 4. Okay, so make sure review that. And then we start to talk about chapter 5 using classes and methods, right? So we have like string has the classes too. Now let's talk about that string. Okay, string can be a type, okay, but it is a class. The contents of a string can be partially changed using the methods, right? We talk about that, review that, class exercise, that we do substring, and we can do concat, right? Like we have string. If you want to look at, we have string Java doc. Okay, this is the place where you can review all the method in the string, right? Class, right? So it's showing how to use substring like that, right? And these are the methods that I try to tell you. Char at, review those. Okay, code point at, compare to, and copy value of equals to string I equals, and so on. Okay, now that means the content of string can be partially changed, okay, because we can do replace substring too, and you can add, insert, or delete the characters from a string buffer. Okay, so we were talking about a string class. Now we also have a string. When you store, pretty much is stored into buffers, okay, and then we have another class named string buffer, okay, which you can do the operations. Let's look at the string buffer. Okay, so that's another class. Okay, so this is maybe new, so but what you need to know is just you can actually do append. Those are the methods. It's pretty much like string class, but they have like a little bit different method. Like you can delete, right? You can insert. See that? Append and delete. So that's pretty much what it is here. You can add appends. Okay. You can create a string buffer from a string. Right. So you can create a string buffer from a string. That is correct. Like if you look at the constructor, see that you create a string buffer from a string class. You can convert a string buffer into a string. That is also correct. Okay, because if you see the return type as string, that method will convert to a string for you right there. Those two, right? Substring or toString too. Okay. So these are the method that returns the type. Okay, with those are strings. So these are valid statements, right? So we will talk about string and string buffer. Okay, so make sure you review that. Okay, buffer, and I just show you. Just Google the Java doc, and it should be okay. And also in your textbook have that, but not sure about string buffer. Okay, but it's just the concept is just here. Now we will talk about the math dot random, and also we talk about math class pretty much, right? So when you do math dot random, it's pretty much just return numbers between 0 and 1, excluding 1. You can always go to math Java doc again. When we were talking about new classes, you can always just Google for Java doc, right? So see, so how to use this? These are the methods. You can do floor, pretty much just round down. You can do ceil, round up. We have the max, find the max number between the two, mean number between the two. Power, right? 2 to the power of the exponents here, right? And square root. Okay, find square root of the number, right? And we have what we call random. Okay, so let me find method random right there, right? Return numbers between 0 and less than 10, not including 10. Okay, so pretty much just 0.0, 0.1, 0.2, and so on. Now this is the data type that returns double. Okay, so because it's between. Okay, so don't expect to see the integers. Now the question is going to be a little bit challenged. The question said, what happens if I cast the numbers that I return from that? That means since return between zeros and not including 1, right? So when you cast this into int, that means you can always get 0. Right, so let's see. So that's how we use, right? Always 0. If I keep running the program, it still returns 0 for me. Look at that. Right, because I cast that to int. Like we know that int is just the whole number. Now if I don't cast, always return 0. Number between 0 and 1, excluding 1. Right. Alright, so now that's how you use math.random. And also, what happens if I try to, remember when we do multiply, divide, like if I multiply with an integers, it's going to get promoted to an int. Okay, so you just need to make sure that we understand. Oh no, it's going to be a double. I mean, this int is going to change to this type, which is double, right? See, the answer is going to be that. Now if I happen to cast this way, it's going to return 0 first, and times 500 becomes 0 again. So just need to be careful. Okay, like how about if I multiply? Okay, multiply and then cast. Okay, so that's going to be different, right? That's going to return all the whole number back. There you go. So just review that then. Okay, now come back to, those are the classes that we use, right? Now we start to create our own classes and method, right? So that's pretty much your chapter 6, right? So this is chapter 5 using classes in chapter 6, right? So you create your own class and methods, right? So review the process of creating class, right? Right, create class and also create methods. We'll talk about that. And they have the scope, right? Now we have to deal with the instant variables, right? Scope is about inside a class, right? Like if I define something in here, so that scope is going to be valid inside the class, right? Or the method's going to see that. But if I declare inside the method, right? Scope this is called local, right? Local to just the method right there inside my main, right? I can have more methods too, right? So if I look at one of my method demo, you can review, right, from your previous class exercise. So you see this X only valid inside here. This is called local, right? So if I want to make it global to the class but local to the class, I just define something right there. So Y is global to other methods, but it's still local to the class. Okay. Alright, so and modifier is the one who make it only local to the class or private. If I say public, that means it's valid outside of this class to other classes, like another program that I try to use, like final exam can see this too if I make it to see. Okay. Now that means the scope of the variables and global and local, right? Variable, right? Variables. Now there's some thing that we talk about in chapter 7. Okay. So chapter 7 is an array, right? So you just need to know how to declare an array. Okay. So make sure you know like array. Int, right? So let me show you from here, right? So if I want to declare an array, like I said, array can be the attributes, right, or the class variables, right? Okay. Int, right? This is just scope. We don't have to talk about that too. By default, it's going to be a default. You're going to say and a list, let's say list, right, and with the bracket equals to new int, right, and keep the size. So have array size 10, right? So that's how you declare an array, right? And also let me put into the review here, right? So now you can have it inside, right, anywhere inside the class. Now if the method is void, that means you don't have return, okay? So but if the method is int, then you have to have return. Void, you see no return. Void, no return. Int, return, right? Now an array can be parameters. That is an array, you see that? That we've been declaring main. Array can be just a local variables like that, and I can return the type of an array too, right? So if you're looking at an example that we used to do for sorting, right? So I return an int type, right? And array can be returns like that too. All right. Now when let's talk about string a little bit, right? We will talk about string. Like a string cannot have the operation add, subtract, divide. S1 equals to tennis, right? You cannot have any operation in string, okay? S2 equals to Tom, okay? Like if I want to see if I can do S1 minus S2 like that, it's not valid, okay? You cannot do greater than, no, we don't do that. right? No logic operation, no Boolean expressions, no arithmetic operations. Okay. Alright, so we talk about array. So just review array, okay? And how to declare and use them. Like another way to declare an array is just say like int array, right, equals to, but always put the square brackets, which it can be come before or after, it doesn't matter. Like this one is come after the name, this is before the name, right, which is fine. And then you start to give the values like that. That's also another way to declare an array. Okay, now these are some partial codes that I'd like you to do it today, okay, like as a part of the class exercises today. I'm going to post this, okay, the study guide online, and I want you to spend some time to analyze this code, and please let me know, okay, if you have any questions. So I recommend you to do it by yourself without putting in the Eclipse or running it first. Try to see if you find any mistake. And also, if you do, after you finish this, okay, I want you to very much just try to put into Eclipse and run it and see if you understand, okay, if it's correct as you're expecting. Try to understand all of this code, okay. It's very important you see them in your test. Alright, so thank you for being with me, and I really enjoy having you all in my class, and I hope that you will success in your future careers and your planning for graduation from the college. Alright, so good luck, and feel free to send me email and anything anytime if you have questions. Alright. Oh, and lastly, I like you to give me an evaluations, okay, on the survey, and let me show you the link. Please take some time to do it now. Alright, so I found a link to provide evaluation. Okay, please do that. Okay, I paste a link on the study guide. You can type http://nveval.com. okay, alright, enjoy and good luck on your test. Bye bye.